All right, let everyone know they're being recorded. You are being recorded. Okay, wonderful. Well, yeah, thank you so much for being here again on a Wednesday morning. Lovely to see you all. We are here to continue talking about generative AI. And I checked a little bit earlier, but just to confirm, you should see not only the Teams, but you should also see a PowerPoint presentation. Can everyone see the PowerPoint presentation as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, wonderful. So we're going to go ahead and get started today. So we are here for the second session of our Gen AI workshop series for this fall quarter, titled "Seeing is Believing: AI Images in the Age of Misinformation." Kaylee, it's not working for you. The captions are not working. Let's see here. I'm not sure if we'll be able to troubleshoot here in real time, Kaylee, but I can say that the caption should be available on the recording. And Greg in the chat might be able to, if I'm sorry to put that on you, Greg, but if you might be able to go back and forth and get that troubleshooting. Okay, thank you so much, Samantha. So we are here to talk about lateral reading, applying the process of lateral reading to AI images, asking the question, is this true or is this fake? Is this a credible source of information when I'm looking here at this image? So last week we were talking about the generation of images using AI, and we talked a lot about the improvements in this technology over time, how much better it's getting. Making the recommendation to practice, to try it out, to see different AI generators, what they're capable of, so that we can get a feel for what is out there. Okay, we are looking at slide 1. Indeed. I will be going on down through here. Thank you. And Kaylee, I don't see or hear anybody. The instructions to do so are not working. Kaylee, is it possible that it's a sound issue on the computer? Maybe leaving the meeting and rejoining could be helpful. And I will say again, we got the recording, so if it's not working for you, if technology is getting in the way today, this recording will go out by the end of the day today, so we'll be able to get the content to you by the end of the day today. Okay. But I'm sorry for those technical difficulties. Yeah. So we're looking at the presentation. I am not in presentation mode, and that is because I'm going to be jumping around to some of these tabs over here, but do let me know if the size is not right. My name is Tobi Goode. I'm a librarian here at SCC, and I'm happy to bring this secondary workshop to you, building off of some of the content and some of the ideas we talked about last week, but going into a slightly new direction. So today we are going to take a little look and compare how image generation has improved over time. And looking at that improvement and getting to the conclusion that AI generation is pretty good right now. Image generation and video generation is pretty good. So some of those common things like text or hands being messed up, we might not be able to rely on that as much anymore. So what else can we do? If we come across an image online, a video online, and we're not sure whether or not that is real, what can we do? If we can't trust what we're seeing, what other techniques can we use? So we're going to talk about lateral reading, a method called the SIFT method here today. And really, we're thinking really critically. We're coming from a standpoint of, hey, I don't know if I can trust what I'm seeing online. I know what these AI generators can do, and I just don't know if I can trust it. So engaging and thinking critically about all of the images, all of the media that we see online, because we're coming from a place of knowing what these generators are capable of. I would love to do introductions, but in consideration of time, and also I think I recognize a lot of names and folks were in here last week. We're going to skip the introductions today, but we're just going to do a quick informal poll here. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being I would have no idea. I'd never know whether an image is AI generated. 5 being, I get it every single time. Nothing can trick me. Nothing can fool me. I always know. How would you rate your confidence in identifying an AI generated image? What would you say? Go ahead and put it in the chat or speak out. It's fine. 3. Yeah. 2-ish. Yeah. 2 to 3. And maybe this is changing. Maybe if you came to one of our Gen AI workshops in spring, and the technology wasn't quite as effective at that time, maybe you would be a 4 or 5, right? But as things are getting better, as we talked about last week, 3, 2, 3, yeah, it's a pretty safe place to be. And I would argue that, you know, in the spirit of this workshop, in the spirit of maybe let's think critically about every image, that's a good place to be, to think, I'm always going to wonder. I'm always going to wonder. I do hope by the end of this workshop, you feel a little bit more confident so you can reflect on your number at the end of this workshop. But again, thesis here being, let's think critically about every image we're interacting with. So looking at the current landscape, we have a few examples for you here of AI generation over time. My favorite one I mentioned last week, and this is a video generation. We are a bit more focused on images today, but it's a good one nonetheless. One of the very first videos, AI generated videos that came out was this one on the left of actor Will Smith eating spaghetti. And this is what that looked like at the time. I believe it was 2022, end of 2022. And this is a recent one. So we can see here the improvement in the technology. Right. On the left, I think our confidence in saying that might be generated by AI is probably pretty high. On the right, that's tough. We'd probably have to know, have to look into this and think critically and maybe apply our SIFT method to identify whether Will Smith has ever been on a beach eating spaghetti. There could be some things we see about this, like what's going on with the fork. And the knife in the other hand, maybe thinking that's not how I eat spaghetti, is that how he eats spaghetti? But generally here, the point is how much has that improved? Another image, and this is one we talked about in a similar workshop in April of this year, is this picture of the Pope. Right. And with AI images, we are thinking a lot about misinformation, images posted about celebrities, about public figures, that could spread a false narrative, that could spread mis or disinformation. Okay, Kaylee had the wrong link. Well, we got you back. I'm so happy to have you back. And I hope that you can hear and you can see us all now. You didn't miss much. This image of the Pope, this was a big one. The image was showing the Pope in a Balenciaga, very expensive brand name coat. And there were about 4 or so images of this that went pretty viral until it was found that these were AI generated. And there are some signs that it's AI generated. This website points out some of them, such as the way that this crucifix looks, the way that the hand looks. But before it was pointed out that this was possibly or likely generated by AI, it had spread like wildfire across the internet, and a narrative along with it, right? So these are some examples both of what we're seeing as far as virality, things going viral, and how that can happen so quickly, and also the improvements over time. Coca-Cola right now, they have a holiday ad they just released a few days ago. And they admit in the holiday ad, it actually does admit at the bottom that it was generated using AI. But to the point that we're seeing this regularly. We're seeing this everywhere. We're even seeing this in our local community. Recently, I passed a billboard for No Lie and noticed that was AI generated imagery. So as we talked about last week, this is being integrated. It is in a lot of different places, and we as individuals get to make our own decisions about how we do or do not want to interact and with AI generated content. And hopefully through this workshop, gain some confidence in identifying when something is AI generated, and thinking about then the credibility or the trustworthiness of that information. Do you have any questions or comments at this point? Have you come across AI generated images or videos? Is this something that you've seen online? Maybe you don't know, maybe you have and you don't know, right? I see some typing. Feel free to type into the chat or unmute. Again, it's just you and us today. Actually, no one in the classroom, so happy to hear your thoughts in the unmute button. I see AI on Facebook every day. The videos that are made are crazy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Sora, one of the AI generators that we talked about last week, Sora 2 was just released, and what it is capable of is quite incredible. As you say, the videos that are made are crazy. To the point of last week, and I'll reiterate again, practicing yourself, engaging yourself to see exactly what these generators are capable of is a great way to understand and get to the point of critical, hey, I don't know if I can trust that. We no longer are able to say, oh, I saw that video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. It's not possible to do something like that. It is possible. It's possible to do some pretty crazy things at this point. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, other social media sites, we're seeing a lot of this content online. And so in spring, we talked about some common tells. In April of 2025, where the technology was, we said, hey, there are some things that you might be able to identify. You might see an image and say, his fingers are kind of wonky, like that image of the Pope. You might see some inconsistencies in the details, like the necklace, generally a lack of details, some funky things going on with skin and hair texture. We're really looking into the details and noticing issues in patterns or proportions or strange context, inconsistencies in like the reflections in the background. And while I still think that these are things to be on the lookout for, especially when folks are using one of those free generators like I myself am for this presentation, we still do see such inconsistencies. But as we continue to see the technology improve, it's getting better and better. So we may no longer, and I would say we shouldn't any longer rely on there being a visual inconsistency in what we're seeing to tell us, hey, this is generated by AI. The last one here, vibes, something just kind of feels off about what you're looking at. I would still say trust your gut, and in general, continue thinking about, there's just something about it. And at that point, that's when you want to engage in a method like SIFT, to read laterally, to look into this a bit more before you take an action like sharing, or writing about, or utilizing an image or a video that you found online. So still trust your gut, trust the vibes, but keep in mind that, again, technology is improving, and we may no longer be able to rely on such common tells as we talked about previously. An example of the improvement. So this was a prompt that I used in spring in ChatGPT. I'm going to make it a little bigger. I know it's hard to see. Again, I know I'm not in presentation mode, but we can make it a little bit bigger. So this was a prompt to generate an image of busy street in downtown Spokane, Washington. And I put it in April and then again in November, and we can see here some improvements, right? In April, we were able to point out some inconsistencies like in the font on Riverside Avenue, on P.F. Chang's over on the right side of the image. There is something going on with the street here as well. We had cars going in two directions, but we didn't have accurate street markings. And as well, we pointed out in spring, which is true for us now as well, if we know Spokane, if we know downtown Spokane, we know that this image is not real, right? We know that there's no Lowe's state, there's no Spokane sign, right? So those are some things we were able to catch in the image, just looking at common tells in April. But on the right here, we can see an improvement again to the technology. They've fixed that street issue. The text has improved here or been removed, so we're not seeing that as much. And if someone has never been to Spokane, if someone has never visited downtown Spokane, Washington, they very well might look at this image on the right here and think, sure, great, that must be what downtown Spokane, Washington looks like. Is it? Is that what downtown Spokane, Washington looks like? I don't think so. It's nice. It would be nice if it did, maybe. But we know because we're here. And that's something to keep in mind as well, is your own relationship to what you're seeing online. Am I familiar with this place? We're familiar with Spokane. We know we don't have a Spokane sign. We know it's a one-way street down there. But if you've never visited, you won't know that. And on the flip side, if this was a picture of downtown Tokyo, where personally, I've never visited, maybe you have, but a place that you've never visited, you would be on the other side of that, right? So again, can we trust what we see online, or are we wanting to think of it more critically? And here's another example. This is Gemini from April to November. I'd say, Gemini was doing pretty good back in April. Our prompt was create a photorealistic image of a successful lawyer. To the comment in the chat, some features of Spokane, like historic buildings, trucks, a handful of pedestrians, but it's not exact. Yeah. It's doing better with the cars, I would say, the license plates, the realism of that. But I do wonder, if you've never been there, you don't know what the buildings look like, are we going to know? Yeah, thank you. Gemini is doing pretty good. We do see some improvements here. Here on the left, our April photo, maybe we see some issues in the text in the background that might tip us off. Something weird is going on with this gavel here in the front of our lawyer. But it was a pretty good one, even in April. And in November, we're seeing a kind of a totally different take on the prompt from Gemini here in November. But I would say the text is doing very well. And if you were looking at this image here on the left, would you know if that's AI generated? What do you think? Would you guess? You just saw this image. Would you guess that that's AI generated? I'm sorry, on the right of our lawyer.
It seems pretty staged to me.
Pretty staged, yeah. I think you make a really, really good point. When we're looking at the centering of the foreground of an image, there's kind of a perfection that comes from AI generated images. Yeah. The lighting is bright but very flat across the entire image.
Mhm.
Yeah, folks mentioned like a yellow, kind of like a yellowing of AI generated images across platforms that can be a sign. Natasha, I really like your point. I think if it looks just like a little bit too perfect, and that speaks again to those kind of vibes, trusting your gut. Like, what are you feeling? What are you seeing? I do also want to point out a change that Gemini has made since April, and that is in the bottom right-hand corner, a watermark. So if this is something that you see on a photo, that is the Gemini watermark that tells you that it is AI generated. Sora 2 now has a watermark as well, so that's something to keep an eye out for, which didn't come up in April. But with that being said, it would be pretty easy for me to just go ahead and crop that watermark out. If I wanted to trick someone, I could just boop, crop that watermark out. So it is something to know, but not necessarily something to rely on. So what are the risks? What are the risks if we cannot tell an image is fake? What are some of the big risks that we encounter? Misinformation, number one, ding, ding, ding. And misinformation, disinformation as well, right? So misinformation, we're sharing something, and we're not aware that we're sharing something that is incorrect. Whereas disinformation coming from a place of intent, where someone is deliberately trying to fool you with the image, right? So something like that image of the Pope in Balenciaga, when that was first put online, that might be considered disinformation. Someone was intentionally trying to spread a false narrative. Whereas, it came across your Twitter feed or came across your, your Instagram, and you sent it off to someone, maybe you didn't realize and you really believed it, right? Absolutely. And this comes particularly into play with public figures, national events, natural disasters, health, right? Health information is a big one too. Right. So these are things that are really central and can really affect people if misinformation is shared. We might think some of it is benign, and it might be, but thinking about the larger picture of what can we trust, right? Who can we trust? Are there any other risks that you can think of? I agree, that's the big one. And we can spiral that out, as I say, something like health information. If someone believes inaccurate health information that they saw online, they may take an action that has a disastrous impact. So certainly there are risks. So what can we do? Pause here, again, reiterate the point. Technology is improving. AI-generated images and videos are getting better and better. And there is a significant risk if we're not able to verify the authenticity of an image that we found online. If we're sharing that, if we're taking an action based off of that image. And if we can't rely on our eyes, if we can't rely on those common tells, what can we do? What should we do? Let's take it a step farther beyond, here are some common tells, and let's go into what actions can we take? What questions can we ask if we want to verify the authenticity of an image? Do we have any questions or comments before I jump into the second half? Okay. I take that as a good thing. So some helpful questions right off the bat. We're going to talk about, oh, Janelle, yes, go for it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you have noticed that there are some frequent flyers when it comes to uh, people or people organizations, whatever it is that you've come to almost always doubt right out of hand. Whether an image is legitimate or AI generated. Are there organizations or sources that are almost always suspect for you?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question, Janelle. And I don't have any off the top of my head that I could list. I think what I personally have come across in my own browsing and doing the research for this presentation are more of those kind of fringe accounts that are posting a lot of the same type of things. But I would love to put that out to others in the room and see what they might have come across. If there's a specific organization or a specific, as you say, frequent flyer who, pretty much every time what they're posting is AI generated. I think that's a great question.
Mhm.
And I almost wonder if we could put together kind of a list.
Yeah,
And
that would be
look
an
at.
interesting list to see.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And I think what you bring up goes to a point that we'll make with the SIFT method. And as we talked about last week too, where there's an individual aspect to it as far as what are we doing with this information, right? Not to so I will say for us at the library, I know that we do utilize AI generated images for things like our social media, or things like our flyers, because that makes it a lot quicker to make a quality image. So maybe we're the frequent flyer. But I wouldn't say I'm going to choose not to personally engage with our content because I'm thinking about what is my purpose in engaging with this, right? Does that make me doubt if it's a cute little image of our Where's Greg campaign on social media? Am I okay personally with that being generated by AI? And everyone might have a very different perspective on that. They might have a different take on that. So also thinking about what is your purpose with engaging engaging with that, I think really comes into play to this question too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I guess my question, maybe more specifically, was who are the frequent flyers who are using this technology and not being transparent about their use? You know, because to your point, I think that you and Greg, Melinda, you're all using image creating in an interesting way, but of course, you're always also citing your source, and you're being very, very transparent about that use. And as we talk about with our students, many of whom are on this call, that's how we can actually build credibility. Like when I see a citation, I'm like, oh, well, that really increases my level of trust in the source. And so yeah, to be more specific about my earlier question, I think I was really asking about those ones who don't cite their sources, who just write it off as their own creation, and then yeah, potentially use it for misinformation as well. But thank you for that discussion.
Yeah, like the bad actors.
Yes.
I love that question. I'm going to keep an eye out and see if we can get a list together, note it down. And I like the point and the nuance that you added to that, as far as how when an organization or when an individual is coming out and sharing and citing that this has been, if not created, the process of creation involved generative AI, that can actually end up increasing the credibility or the relationship that we have with it. Of course, again, very nuanced and how that information is being used, but thank you for adding that. I love that point.
You bet.
All right, so some straightforward questions. Let's say we're not interested, and I do see some typing, so I will pause, but I'm going to continue and not put pressure on you to type too quickly. So take your time typing, and we will circle back. But just some helpful questions off the bat, and these are general, like we call it information literacy. You can use these for any source of information you find, and they're helpful. Apply to images. Who is posting the image, right? Is it a reliable source? Do I know who is posting the image? What do I know about them? And what is the purpose of that image, right? Why is it being posted? What do I know about the source, and what do I know about their goals in posting this image? Are they trying to get me to take an action? Are they trying to get me to pay some money, something? Are they trying to get me to share it, right? Who is the intended audience? Who is this image intended to connect with? Is it maybe, I think when it comes to AI generated images and videos on something like YouTube, I think a lot about kids. Are kids the intended recipient of this? And how might that impact my engagement with this and my belief in its credibility? When is it being posted, right? Is this being posted? We had an election yesterday. Is this being posted right before an election, trying to get me to take some action? And when it comes to images and really in others as well, can it be verified or found elsewhere? So the image of the Pope wearing his Balenciaga coat, can I find images from the moments before and after? With that one, there was just about four. There are about 4 images of the Pope in this. And if we think about it and we think, is that realistic? If the Pope came out in a big old puffer coat, are we really only going to have 4 images of him that are crystal clear? Or are we going to have hundreds of images online that are from different angles, from different quality cameras and all of that? So searching and trying to see if you can find more images there. These are some good places to start. All right, and to the chat, I tend to err on the side of caution. I always verify if I can't. I do my best to avoid a lot of Facebook sponsored ads that are clearly AI, but they don't disclose it all the time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Err on the side of caution. Try to verify if I can't. Do I need to engage? Can I avoid that? Can I go somewhere else? Right. And Samantha, have you noticed that businesses are offering guidelines for Gen AI images must include a citation for Gen AI images? I noticed on the Coca-Cola ad, they included a citation. Generally, and just in my own internet browsing, I do feel like we're seeing a shift, and this was brought up by Melinda last week too, a pendulum swing, where we kind of, as this technology came out, we saw a flood of AI-generated images and videos that weren't cited, and people were believing. And starting to think about it a bit more. If I see stuff online, I'll see a lot of comments that'll say, AI slop or AI. And I think businesses, what I've seen, again, just anecdotally, might be swinging in that other direction where they say, hey, actually, it has a negative impact on our engagement if we're not admitting, if we're not coming out and offering some kind of a guideline for this. So that's just anecdotally. But I think that's a great question. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that question from Samantha? Anything that you've noticed, guidelines for the use of Gen AI images, maybe in your own jobs?
Thanks, Toby. I am really curious about that. We don't have any rules, and other countries seem to have rules. So I think that's really interesting to see how our rules will develop. Seems like it's going to come from whatever organizations choose to do. Yeah.
And some of the companies themselves, right? The AI companies themselves, like Gemini with the watermark that's going on. Google is doing a couple things to try and that's a whole other question. Do we trust that? Do we believe that? Are they doing it just to make us happy and make us engage more? There's a lot to discuss there. But yeah, I wonder, is it going to come from individual organizations? What is the ethical pressure that the AI companies themselves are seeing to make it a lot more difficult for images and videos to be used without a watermark, without some kind of a statement? That's another thing that your question makes me think of. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
More images to use to verify. Yeah, we got images on images now. I think last week it was the statistic, and it's hard to find, but 34 million images generated a day on Gen AI. And when I do one of these workshops, at least 10 of those are from me. I wonder if we'll start to see corporate guidelines in their editorial design style guides. I wonder. That's a great question. I know we have a lot of business students in here, and I'm so glad you're here to be thinking about this and thinking about how you take this forward into your careers as well. And I do see some typing. I'll do the same. I'll circle back. So we have about 15 minutes left, and I do really want to make sure we get through just this SIFT framework. We won't go too down the rabbit hole of SIFT, but I'd like to just introduce you to the framework. So lateral across a horizontal axis. I've linked in here kind of one of the first papers because that's kind of part of lateral reading. You want to get to the source. So the source of this comes from a 2017 paper, and it was looking at how fact checkers get to the bottom of whether information is or is not credible, is or is not trustworthy. So really applied primarily to written information, but now we're seeing it applied, of course, in lots of different ways, and really looking at online information. So really specific, what can we do to verify claims made online? And the lateral reading is looking horizontally. So so if you find something, you find a piece of information, open up a new tab and a new tab and a new tab, and you're going horizontal along the tabs of the internet to learn more about a site and the claims that it's making. So that is our foundational understanding of lateral reading. And then Mike Caulfield in 2017 utilized this with a method called SIFT. To verify credibility of information, and that's what we'll talk about today. This link here is an OER open educational resource, a free textbook, super interesting. It's short chapters with lots of screenshots, lots of examples of this being done, lots of tips and tricks for general online information, like finding when a Twitter post was made. And it was 2017, so it was Twitter at that time. There was a 2021 update, but there's not too much of an update specifically applying this to the question of AI generated images and videos. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take this framework and try to apply it. SIFT is an acronym. It stands for stop, investigate the source, find better coverage, and trace claims, quotes, media to the original context. And SIFT is something we can engage in with, again, any piece of media. And it's not necessarily we go from one to the next. We may end up stopping. We may end up at S, stop, and decide at that point we're not actually going to continue. We may get to the F and stop there, or we may get all the way to the T, or we may skip the F and we may go to the T. But SIFT can be applied to any information that we find online, and it is specifically designed to help us verify the credibility of online information. So I highly recommend trying it out. All right, so stop. The S in SIFT is for stop, and I would argue that this is the most important one when it comes to images online, AI-generated images and videos online. And stop is related to the emotions that are caused, right? When we first see a piece of information, we're going to stop and we're going to consider our first reaction, check our emotions. Studies have repeatedly shown when looking at how things go viral online that it is mostly related to not necessarily the tone of the article or the information, but the reaction that an individual has. And that's what's going to cause them to react or to share something online. And unfortunately, it's been found that the emotion that causes the quickest share of a piece of information is rage, it's anger. If we see something and it causes that reaction in us, we are much more likely to share that than any other emotion, even joy. So when we are presented by a piece of media, and to Misty's point and to what we were saying before, right, hopefully we're shifting to a point where we're always stopping. We're always stopping before sharing, and we're always thinking, because we know what Gen AI is capable of, so we're always stopping and we're always thinking about it, right? We're asking ourselves, wait a minute, what do I feel right now? And then we can go to that question of, do I want to engage, right? What is my purpose in engaging with this? Is this something that is a cause that I'm very passionate about, right? Then maybe I need to move forward. Maybe I need to go to the I and to the F and to the T, and I need to look more down that rabbit hole, right? But if maybe you realize that your purpose is you're just scrolling through, through social media before bed, and you just thought about sharing it with your partner. This happened to me. Video on the right, there's a lot of these going around my algorithms, and it's dogs saving babies. And that hit me emotionally. I love dogs, I love babies. And I think I probably watched 2 or 3 of these before I realized, wait a minute, A, I'm having an emotional reaction to this, and B, it's the same baby in every video that I'm seeing. So, are the parents really irresponsible and they're letting their baby get almost eaten by a bear and smushed by a TV really frequently and happening to catch that on camera? Or maybe I've been duped and this is AI generated. So I fall victim to it as well, and it's that emotional reaction that really triggers it. So stop, feel free to stop, think about what your purpose is and whether you need to move forward to get more information. I would love to hear your stories too, maybe pop them in the chat for the group, but I do want to make sure we get all the way through the acronym as well. But that's one that got me for sure. Then we're going to investigate. Let's say, again, it's a cause that we're really passionate about. An example for you here that I found was an AI-generated video talking about health. And so maybe it's something that we or someone we care about, a health issue that we're concerned about. So we want to stop and we decide we do want to continue and verify, and now we're going to investigate. So what can we find out about the source? What are their qualifications to speak on the topic? What biases might they have? And what else are they posting? So for this one, I have it open in a tab here. I promised I was going to go to them. Real quick, no, that's the doggy one. Oh, doggy one, I do want to point out that's Sora up there. But this one, let's say we come across this video online, investigate the source. What can we find out about this? The claim they're making earbuds could be destroying your brain. We can even look through some of the comments, but we'd want to go to the profile, take a look. What else are they posting? What do we know about them? And oh, it turns out they're posting about a product that they sell that is going to be related to health, to help make you feel better, right? So do they have an ulterior motive in telling you this information that they're hoping could get you to purchase a product from them, right? So investigate the source as much as you can, not only looking at the profile itself, but also looking and just looking up in Google or in whatever search engine you use, looking up to see what more and what others are saying about that source. What information can you find about that source? As I say, this one here, it's an AI generated video and they're making a claim. I'll show you a brief. In action here, saying it will literally kill you, and it doesn't have anything to do with hearing loss. It's about bacteria, and it's making the claim that this can lead to dementia. It can lead to memory loss, right? So pretty scary claim to make, an emotional claim to make, and maybe that is something that we do want to learn more about. So we're going to go down to find better coverage. So if we're thinking, okay, they're making this claim, what sources can I trust to evaluate this claim? Where can I go to find more information about a connection, a possible connection between earbud or AirPod or headphone use and dementia or memory loss, right? What other coverage is available on the topic from trusted sources? So reading laterally, opening up those tabs, opening up a Safari window, and going down the rabbit hole of what are trusted folks saying about this topic. And for this one here, I was able to do a search for hearing, what was it? AirPods and dementia. And I was able to come across a article from Johns Hopkins University, a more reputable source that talks about NIH-funded research. So we're trying to go down into verifying the claims that are made. And what this source clarifies is that hearing loss itself is correlated with Alzheimer's, is correlated with dementia. However, we're not seeing that, we're not seeing that connection between the use of headphones or earbuds or AirPods there. We can't go too deep just out of time, but feel free to click through that and try it out yourself as well. I highly recommend it. Trying to find better coverage of the source. When it comes to images, again, finding additional images of the same topic. So again, our Pope image, can we find more on that? You can also try a fact-checking site, recommend doing that, something like Snopes or Fact Check. Now, they're probably not going to be able to fact check whether or not a dog saved a baby from a bear, but they might be able to fact check things that are related to like public information, political information, things like that, which is where we're really getting into the dangers of misinformation, to the point earlier. And finally, a fun one for you here with Taylor Swift. Our T in SIFT is trace to context. So the gold standard, the best thing we could do would be able to find the original image or find the original, if a claim is being made, like that previous example, find the original article that verifies or that validates that claim. So trace to context, we're trying to get all the way down to the first person who talked about this, the source of this information. Does that information line up? So this one on the right, I called myself out. It is not real. But maybe you saw this online and you thought, oh, cute, Taylor Swift went to a Halloween party. She dressed up as a pumpkin. I'm going to be a pumpkin. But if we look a little bit closer and we try to trace it to the context, maybe we go to Taylor Swift's Instagram and we find that she actually didn't go out for Halloween this year, or she dressed up as something else for Halloween. So tracing a context in this example, and to the point that Greg has made, when it comes to representations of real people, this is a huge, huge, huge issue. And these AI generators, they're going back and forth on whether or not they will generate real people. I asked ChatGPT to generate Taylor Swift, and it would not. It looked more like Sabrina Carpenter than Taylor Swift. I asked Gemini to generate Taylor Swift, and this is what I got. And I think it's a pretty good likeness of Taylor Swift. Again, I have the free version, so it's not the best, but think about what Midjourney could do. Think about what Stable Diffusion could do, right? And of course, yeah, the ethical issues around consent. I doubt that they asked Taylor Swift if they could dress her up as a pumpkin for this image, right? So trace to context, try to get to the original source. In this example, checking her social media sites might be a good place to start if you're wondering whether she was a pumpkin for Halloween or not. And I know we're coming up on time here, but I do just want to point out another tool that you can use, and that's a reverse image search. So if you have not done this before, Google allows you to do this. Google Images, TinEye is another one where you can put an image into, if we're at images.google.com, you can actually search by an image. So this is a great way of seeing where else an image might be posted online to be able to kind of trace that to its context, to investigate, to find additional coverage, and also a way to maybe find out that that's not posted anywhere online, or that same exact image is posted in many places. So that can give you a little bit of context as well. So if I put in this image I generated of a dog saving a baby from a bear, and I search that, it is doing a reverse image search. And you'll notice here, it's not the exact image, but there's a lot of content out there. As I said, a lot out there on this theme. And that can help us with our SIFT method going down. Exact matches, none, because I generated that this morning. So there's no exact matches. But this is a great tool to utilize for images to try and get to the bottom of that. There's also some AI detection tools. So AI trying to find AI and trying to tell you whether an image is AI or not. And of course, those watermarks that we talked about. All right. So I know we're getting right to the end here, and I want to see if there are any questions or any thoughts that you'd like to share as we get to the end of the workshop here. Yeah, Sandra.
Hi. In classes, we've learned a lot about AI and all the pros and the cons, but how do you get the message out to the general public who believe everything they see on social media? And especially for the kids, it's really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful question. Super important question. And I wish I had the solution. I wish I had the answer. I think, you know, we do what we can as far as offering these workshops, putting this information out there, but it's a really hard question to answer. How do we? Right? How do we do that? How do we get the general public to understand that it's important to be critical of the information that we share online? And maybe that's using our own platforms to point it out to what was mentioned earlier. When a larger business or organization admits that something is AI, perhaps that can help raise awareness. Can be a way to go. And I would say having the conversation with people that you care about, and maybe teaching them some of these techniques as well. Really with SIFT, as I say, I think stop is the most important. So helping folks understand that they can stop and before sharing, before continuing to engage, and really think about what their reaction is. And you know, it's not necessary. It's not necessary to go on to share. But if they do want to, if that is something that the information is really necessary to get to the bottom of, that they have tools for understanding how to do that. So maybe pass along the SIFT framework to people in your life.
Yes, thank you.
Does anyone else have any ideas? Let's solve this issue here today. And let's go out there after this workshop. Let's spread the word. Other ideas? How can we get the word out? Thanksgiving's coming up. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, a good opportunity to have a AI generated image and video conversation with your loved ones. Misty, do AI images get recycled through the program being used? I would go ahead and assume that anything that AI is giving you or you're giving AI is going back into the model to train the model. 100%. Is that the question? Being recycled? Yeah. Kind of, yes. Get recycled. As far as whether it's going to give the same image to multiple users, no, that's not. I do not believe that is going to happen. It's going to be a unique image every time. Maybe similar, like you saw with our examples from April to November, but the programs are not going to give the exact same image, even if it's a very, very similar or identical prompt. And I know it's 10:22. I do see some typing, and I will answer and we will discuss. But just some final thoughts, right? It's not new. It's continuing to improve. Just be critical. Be critical. Don't trust it. Don't trust anything out there. Practice. Learn what it's capable of. Talk to your librarians, and come to our workshop not next week, the week after. Enjoy your Tuesday holiday. The week after, same time, same place. We have one more workshop, so please come. And Samantha, continue to research. Yeah. Ooh, I will take a look at that. Yeah, I'll continue as well, Samantha. I think that's a fantastic question. Maybe I'll go down to NOLI and ask them too. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you for taking your time for attending. I'm going to go ahead and stop the meeting.